let's look at this practice Quizzette, so make sure you're taking notes. We'll quickly take a look at all three problems. That way you guys can write some notes and then have some extra practice next time. So, remember, when we're dealing with solving equations, okay, we need to identify the variable, okay, then isolate or get alone it by working backwards. And when we work backwards, think inverse. And inverses are basically the opposite. Okay, that's what we're thinking of when we're doing this. And here's kind of a trick for those of you that may struggle with knowing what to do first. Okay, take a look at your problem. I've got an n right here. There's my variable. Okay, well, what's happening to this n first? Well, if we're following order of operations, the first thing we would do is multiply, because that 8 is right next to it, so we times by 8. Then you would add 2, and that would get you to your answer, negative 86. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going backwards and thinking the opposite. So let's go in the opposite direction and think the inverse. The opposite of plus 2 is negative 2. The opposite of timesing by 8, dividing by 8. And that's going to get us to our answer. So that's where we start. We subtract 2 from both sides. Those cancel out. Negative 86 minus 2 is negative 88. Equals 8n, because 2 minus 2 is 0. Did that one. Then we divide by 8 on both sides, and we get negative 11 equals n. Alright, so now let's do number 2. So we've got, what do we got going on here for our k? Well, first thing we do is that fraction bar, which means division. So you divide by 7, then you would subtract the 7. If I was able to put a number in for k, that's what we would do, right? So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to add 7 and then times by 7. So we add 7 to that minus 7. Those cancel out. We get k over 7, because negative 7 plus 7 is 0, equals negative 9 plus 7 would be negative 2. Then we times both sides by 7 to do the opposite. Those cancel, leaving us with k equals negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. There's our answer. Okay, now the last one. Okay, so we've got x. First thing we do to x is times by 1/2. Okay, then once you'd figured out what that was, you would add 2. So we've got to do the opposite. Subtract 2 and then divide by 1/2. Now, dividing by a fraction. You should remember that we can't do that. What we do is we find the reciprocal, so 2 over 1, which is just 2, and we do the reciprocal, which is times. So dividing by 2 is the same as times, or dividing by 1/2 is the same as timesing by 2. And timesing by 2 is easier to think through. So first, we subtract 2 from both sides, giving us 1/2 x, because that becomes 0, and adding 0 does nothing, right? So we just get rid of it. 4 minus 2 is 2, and we're going to times both sides by 2. Those cancel, leaving us with 1x, which is just x, because 1 times anything is just itself. 2 times 2 gives us 4. So, there we go with our answers. Hopefully you guys got that stuff written down. And there you go.